I'm not even sure when exactly I picked up my first crystal. I was picking up rocks and stones as a child, and by the time I was in college, I was going to little shops where they had crystal jewelry. And so I think the first stone I really connected with was an amethyst necklace. And I wore that thing every day for a year and a half until the amethyst fell out. And then I went promptly back to the shop and bought another one. So that amethyst stayed with me through those amethysts stayed with me through my entire college time, and just really helped me to stay calm and not get too much into my head, and just be my natural spiritual self, which is how amethyst works. It's a natural sedative for the mind, and it really brings spirituality into our everyday lives. And so that amethyst was really comforting to me. My real crystal journey, diving deep into it, happened many years later after I had left my performance career and was just looking for what the next thing was. I knew I wanted to very much focus on my metaphysical studies and interests, and I was at the New Life Expo just looking to see what was calling my attention, and every single crystal table at the New Life Expo really called my attention. And I was walking along with a friend, and I would say, "Can you hold on just a minute?" And I would stop and I would look at every single crystal that was on the table, one by one, really taking in all of their energy and information, picking some up and looking at them, but really it was a visual thing for me, taking in all the information from the crystals. And then I'd pop back up and start talking to my friend, and we'd walk along looking at this or that, but then a crystal table would come up again, and I'd be like, "I need another minute." And I would stop and look again at every single crystal. And by the time I devoured like 7 or 8 tables of crystals, I was like, I think maybe there's something here. There was another fair that happened soon after at a place called the Meta Center here in New York City, where I met my first teacher. And I've had many teachers since then. But most importantly, I've been taught by the stones. The crystals are really the ones that are the true teachers. Other people are just guides. My first crystal certification was through Melody. If you're familiar with the book Love is in the Earth, Melody is the author of that. It's a book that looks at working with crystals a little bit differently than others at the time had, because she worked with 2 other people, and if they all didn't agree that the crystal worked in this way, then they wouldn't put it into the book. So it was her method of keeping the information as scientific as possible, even though a lot of it was being channeled. It's that a lot of the metaphysical properties of stones are actually revealed in their physical properties, which she had also studied. So I learned a good amount with that course. I was really happy that I got to take it. In all, I ended up studying with 5 different lineages of crystal healing, and they all overlap each other, from classical Chinese stone medicine to laying on of stones to Native American stone medicine practices. And what's interesting is, as you really work with the crystals and work with the stones, each person comes into their own beautiful understanding of how the crystals work, and how their particular method of crystal healing comes together. And it's always good to have sort of a well-rounded approach to working with crystals, and also adopting other practices which can be helpful through the process. So 5 Sense Healing is the name of my healing business. It's actually the business that I started with, which is healing therapies and consultations. And it encompasses crystal healing, energy healing, and sound healing mainly, as well as consultations for personal growth and astrology that all help us to connect more fully to ourselves and the natural world, and bring healing and wellness into our lives. And that business actually led to the Faerie Den shop because a lot of my clients really were coveting my healing crystals for my crystal healing sessions, and they wanted me to bring some back for them. And so that's how I really started teaching more and talking about crystals with people, and really helping to empower them through working with stones and come into a greater understanding of how crystals can help them in their everyday lives. So I do have a crystal healing certification course that I do at least twice a year, but very often more, depending on if I go out to other places to do it. It varies depending, but generally it is a 3-day program where we just really open to the subtle energies of stones and learn to really pull information from the crystals, and to identify at least 30 different types of crystals and the healing properties, as well as really opening to our own inner healer and learning to intuitively work with the stones, because you can't learn everything you need to learn for crystal healing in a weekend, obviously, but what you can get are the tools and the guidance that you need in order to really work with the crystals and start to learn from them and be guided by the stones themselves. That's one of the certifications I give. I also teach about energy healing and astrology and sometimes essential oils. So meditation classes as well. So it varies depending on what people are looking for. In the fall of 2019, I was approached to write this book about crystals, connecting with crystals, which of course I had to call it that since that was the name of my first crystal healing course. I was approached by someone working through St. Martin's Press and Macmillan Publishing, and it is on Castle Point Books. The first chapter is really sort of a step-by-step on how to work with crystals for healing and empowerment. And then the second section goes into information on each stone. And sometimes I do a whole family, and sometimes it's just a single crystal, but always with some keywords, some information on the physical properties, and then information on the healing properties. And then there's different suggestions for how to try the stone in your life. And also there's a little tip or tidbit of information that may be interesting to find out about. One of the things I really love about crystals is how they really empower us to trust our own intuitive wisdom. And so when people come here, it's a personal experience. The shop is in my home in Midtown Manhattan. It just seemed I was already doing healing therapies here. It seemed like the best place to show off my wares, and it really has created a personal shopping experience for the people who come, because I will always guide them to come and get a mini crystal healing essentially here in the shop, and just see what calls to them, because that helps each one of us to trust ourselves and our own intuitive nature. And I'm here to guide them through the process. And I certainly do and can make suggestions when needed. But usually what I let people do is to choose the crystals that call to them most, and then I talk to them about some of the ways that these crystals will be helpful for them or how they are known to work. And that allows the person to make more definitive and decisions where they really feel confident about what they're taking home with them to work with. Most people come to the shop mainly for the crystals, I have to say. I do hand select every piece, and with loving care, and I feel each piece is very special. And I do also hand select each piece with the idea of what crystals will be best for healing and growth. But in the shop, beyond the crystals, I also have organic essential oils. I studied with and work with Floricopia because their products are all organic or wild harvested. I also have crystal jewelry, which a lot of people love. I do make jewelry, but also get other pieces, special pieces that I find. I have sage and Palo Santo, the basic things that you would need for healing and empowerment and meditation and connecting to the natural world, which is what I do. Everything I do is really all about connecting more fully with yourself and the natural world around you. Every modality, every tool that I work with is always meant to bring you back home to yourself. So that's really the basis of what Five Sense Healing and the Faerie Den and all that I do is about, to help you feel at home.